What up, Screen Fiends? I'm GB, and you're tuned in to Headz TV, where we like to discuss all the wonderful things appearing on your movie and your TV screens. In this episode, I'm going to give my review and a little discussion on Preacher, Season 1, Episode 3, titled The Possibilities. Alright, so Preacher, Season 1, Episode 3, The Possibilities. The synopsis, this was a good episode, by the way. I like the show. I like it more on the rewatch. I was actually talking to somebody today, and they said, how much they like Preacher, and it made me think, and I liked it when it first came on, don't get me wrong, but I'm liking it even more rewatching them now. Alright, so the synopsis for episode 3 reads, Cassidy helps Jesse explore his newfound power. That was a fun one. Based on new information, Tulip tries to convince Jesse to seek revenge. Alright, so not only do we get some just good moments of like an action show, we also get really good character development, just like we do with so many of the good TV shows nowadays. And honestly, most TV shows that aren't that great, that's what they're lacking, the character development. And a show like Preacher shows you that you can move along the plot and you can further the story while still developing your characters. It's proof in the pudding right here, right? Alright, so first we have Cassidy helps Jesse explore his newfound power. So we know now that Jesse's power is that he can manipulate, you can bend someone to his will, right? So whatever he wants them to do, he can make them do. But what he's learning now is that the entity inside of him, Genesis, he may not know it's Genesis, but the source of his power is very literal. So whatever he says, it's going to do to a T. And this episode, he kind of plays with that a little bit. Now, how does he play with it? He makes Cassidy do a series of just funny, ridiculous things. And, it works. The dynamic between Jesse and Cassidy, the two actors, the way they're written, and the way they perform, they seem like best buds, you know what I mean? So they really, really have good chemistry. All three of the leads in the show have really good chemistry with each other on screen. So it adds so much more of a fun dynamic to the show when everyone is just works so well together, at least your main characters. So that's really all we get with that, right? But let's talk about Cassidy for a minute, because we have some great scenes with Cassidy, some great comedy. This is what I like about Cassidy. Not only is he funny, but he's cool as shit. Like, he's just a cool dude. Like, he's somebody you would want to hang out with. And on top of that, he's pretty badass, right? So he's a really fun character to watch. I love, like, the getup he puts on when he goes out to the sun. Because don't forget, he's a vampire. That's another thing I like with this show, is they're not constant, at least not in season 1, they're not constantly throwing in your face that he's a vampire. It's all little subtleties, like, the sun stuff, going out at night, and, the blood drinking. And the first episode, it was pretty in your face, you know what I mean? But since after the first episode, they're not so in your face about it. Just like they're not so in your face about the two angels being angels, I like that about the show, and it makes it feel a little bit more real than, like, let's say Supernatural, which I also enjoy, not as much now as it used to, but where they're constantly throwing in your face that this is a demon, this is an angel, this is a whatever monster. But I guess they kind of have to do that because it's a monster of the week type of show, where this isn't. Alright, so, alright, so now let's just move on to Tulip's part of this. Oh no, let's move on to Tulip. Yeah, sorry. Alright, so Tulip tries to convince Jesse to seek revenge. So we see in the opening scene, she's talking to the character Danny. That's the woman she's sitting on the bench with, and that character was mentioned in the episode prior, in episode 2, as somebody they used to work with or work for, and now we see that I guess they worked for Danny, and it was three of them. It was Jesse, Tulip, and a guy named Carlos that I pulled off some sort of heist, and Carlos left them in the lurch. I forget if they tell you what else happened during that, but I think it was a lot worse than just him leaving them. I think he killed somebody, and he probably think of like Reservoir Dogs, how Mr. Blonde like goes in there to rob a place, and he's working with professionals, but he sets it off and starts busting caps, right? So same thing. Carlos would be Mr. Blonde in this case, and Jesse and Tulip would be the professionals, right? And Jesse agrees to this at first. Oh wait, I missed a great scene with Tulip and the cop. Once again, great range by the actress. Her getting out of the speeding ticket, or possibly getting arrested because she had a gun in the car and she wasn't getting arrested. Like that cop was either letting her go or getting got, right? So, but the way she handles herself, and look, I knew she was lying to the cop, obviously, right? But she still made me believe her story. Like, that's how good she was. And just, it gives you more depth to that character, showing that she's not just this crazy killer. She's going to try and use her noodle first to get out of a situation. If she can't, then she's going to be crazy killer. And I like that about Ruby because it puts her in that gray area where she's not really evil, you know what I mean? She might be bad, she might do bad things, but she still has good in there. And you know, I just like that. You know, the way that they're showing you that, to me, is respectful to the character. All right, so then she convinces Jesse, and he says, "Yeah, let's do it." Right? So they get ready to go after the dude Carlos. Now, the lady Danny gets the information on Carlos's whereabouts from a man in a white suit, and you don't see his face. Now, I know I said, and I think it was the last one that I did, the last review, that the cowboy will become one of the antagonists in a way in the story. Well, so is the guy in the white suit. I'm not going to spoil anything from you from what I know of the source material, but just know that the guy in the white suit is also going to be an antagonist. So these are small characters in season 1, but they will become bigger players down the road. So that's who Danny gets the information from on Carlos' whereabouts. So they're getting ready to go do it. They stop at a gas station, and Tulip is like bragging on how she's going to do Carlos. She's going to break every bone in his body, and then she's thinking about doing something with acid. And this doesn't sit well with Jesse. And you can see in this scene that they were both probably that sadistic and that cruel at one point, until Jesse had an awakening of sorts, or whatever happened to Jesse to make him change his way of life, right? And go back home to become a preacher like his dad and all that. So you see it right there in the performance of, Jesse saying, "Yeah, that's, too far," right? And the way Tulip is saying it sounds like a kid going to an amusement park. "Oh, first we're going to go on this ride, and then we're going to go on that ride." Like, that's how she sounds to me. And I just love that character. She has so many layers to her. It's great. And all right, so then Jesse goes into the bathroom, and who's follows him in the bathroom? Donnie. Donnie's the guy whose arm Jesse broke up, beat up. All the kids are making fun of him and his son for making rabbit noises. Making noise like a bunny. I love it. And now that whole scene, I love the gangster scenes with Jesse, because it's like flipping a switch. One moment he doesn't want to do this, and he's thinking like a righteous, religious man, and then somebody gets under his skin. Happens to be Donnie twice, right? Gets under his skin to a point where he can't hold it back. You know what I mean? And I love the way he handles Donnie, and he does it in a way where he doesn't have to use violence now, because he uses his power. And he makes Donnie basically stop, sit down, put the gun in his mouth, cock it back, and then he lets him go, right? So now he realizes that this power can be used for righteous reasons. You don't have to hurt. You don't have to kill. He doesn't have to beat anybody up. He can use his power to do good. And it starts to go to Jesse's head a little bit, I feel, in that scene, because he has like a god-like moment where, he looks, very full of himself in that moment, right? But then he comes out of the bathroom and he basically tells Tulip that he's out. He changed his mind. Tulip is not happy about this whatsoever. That's basically the end of Jesse and Tulip's story for that episode. It was mostly them, throughout the whole thing. Now we do get some more Cassidy where he sees the two angels again, and he sees that they're coming after him, coming after Jesse again. He thinks that they're after him, mind you. He thinks that these are vampire hunters coming to get him. But he seems confused because he knows he killed these two guys. So he does gangsta and, kills them again. And they come back yet again. And they explain to Cassidy that they're angels and they're not really there for him and the whole deal. That they're after Genesis and Genesis escaped and all this blah, blah, blah. So basically they fill Cassidy in on what's going on. And Cassidy tells him that he's a vampire, but they're like, I don't even know what the hell a vampire is, There's just so much good comedy on this show. You can tell that it was developed and at least season 1, oversaw somewhat by comedians, comedic writers, whatever, right? Yeah, so good stuff there. And then we also get some stuff with Sheriff Root, where, the two angels lie to him, tell him that they're federal agents. And, he's a small town sheriff, so it's buyable. It's believable to me that he's naive enough to just buy the story. And he basically gets it in his head that there's some sort of serial killer on the loose. And you see that he's kind of losing hope in humanity, And we also get a good scene with him and Eugene, Arseface. And he displays this to Eugene. He tells him basically, that, there's no good in the world. You can't go over that girl's house. Ain't no good gonna come of it. Because Eugene hears about the miracle that Jesse performed on Eugene's victim, right? I'm doing a lot of air quotes lately. And then we also get a quick little scene of Kincannon, which was, early in the episode. And, a lot of people sit down, relax. They listen to some nice music, some jazz or some classical or whatever kind of music they like. And they just relax and reflect and think and figure things out. I do this. Many other people do this. But now Kincannon has a different approach to this. He likes to listen to the sounds of his slaughterhouse floor. Now he owns a meat packing distributing place, whatever. So he has a slaughterhouse and a meat packing, and he's in that industry. And his office is in, I guess, the building where they slaughter, because he's listening to sounds from the slaughter room floor of animals being killed and massacred in, like, brutal ways, right? And that's how he's relaxing. He even turns up the volume at a minute, sits back in a moment of reflection. Now, this is to let us know that, obviously, this is going to be our big bad for season 1, and at least season 1, right? And this is just giving you some insight into who he is. And I love when a show, the writers, the showrunners, the director, can take moments of relative silence, no dialogue, whatever, and say so much with a scene. This is one of my huge problems with network TV. It's like they feel the need to have dialogue in every minute, every second of every frame of every episode in most shows. I'm not going to say all, but in most shows. And they don't, and it comes across as being too wordy, too much dialogue, too much exposition, too much explaining, too much talking, and not enough acting, reflecting, performing, art going on. And art performances and that stuff that I'm talking about says so much more than those 10,000 words you're trying to fit into that scene. So a lot of shows, especially network ones, would take, it would be good advice for them to take a moment to look at shows like Preacher or Walking Dead or Game of Thrones, where they can take a moment of silence and speak volumes about what's going on. So respect to that. Yeah, so it was a good episode. I liked it. I thought, it was really solid. Could it have used maybe, a little bit more action? I always want more action, you know what I mean? But no show is perfect. This episode was good. I don't think it's as good as the first two, but it's good. This one's a 4.5, where those I gave 4.7, 4.8, and that's out of 5. So this is a high-rated show on my list. As far as standouts go, I love the writing on this show. It's very clever. Their dialogue it's very Quentin Tarantino-y, Coen Brothers-ish. And you watch my videos, I like that type of stuff. So, and then, it's beautifully shot. I love the visuals, and just everything is handled well on it, So, yep, 4.5 out of 5. That's my review for Preacher, Season 1, Episode 3, The Possibilities. So sound off down below. Let me know what you thought about the episode, what you think about my video, etc., etc. Don't forget to like, share, and all that other good stuff if you like the content. Helps out the channel. And, yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Always appreciated. You guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time.